I'm Gilbert Van Hassel, the CEO of Robeco. Good to see you. But looks like we're coming through the first stages of the pandemic when the talk is of ESG at a pivot point, at a turning point. What does that mean from your perspective?
Well, I think that we are at a pivot point, and there is really no choice. I mean, if we want to have a sustainable recovery, we're going to need to have a sustainable economy. And for me, there are three conditions that need to be met. I mean, first of all, we need to get to a healthy planet. If you see, there are about 1 million animal species that are threatened by extinction, or our climate over the last 100 years has warmed up by about 1 degree Celsius. If we really don't do anything and do anything soon, we're going to get more storms, more diseases, more flooding, and we're going to have an economy that is going to be a lot more volatile, and in the end is going to be shrinking. So that's the number one objective. I think the second condition is that, from my perspective, wealth and well-being need to be fairly shared. And we see all over the world, you see protests. And clearly at this point in time, while the immediate cause is clearly racism and police violence, but it goes, from my perspective, much deeper. It's about inequality, it's about poverty, it's about not having access to a public health system. It's about not having equal chances to a good education. And it's not only unfair, it's unjust. And also this is going to hamper a recovery if you don't take care of that. And then lastly is governance. Very clearly, we need to have the proper governance, both at the level of corporates and at the level of governments. And I think the silver lining, we've seen it. I mean, for the right reasons, people are willing to make quite a bit of sacrifices. And having a world where wealth and well-being is fairly distributed are definitely the right reasons, and definitely the reasons why governance should be central at this recovery. So at Robeco, we've put all of these points clearly central. We take very much guidance from SDGs. We have built an SDG credit product, an SDG equities product, and ESG is fully integrated in our investment process, and I think that's the right way to go.
We're in the middle of a short-term crisis, but we need to think and invest long-term. How do we reconcile the two?
Well, I mean, I think it's totally normal that governments at this point in time are focusing at the immediate impact of this crisis. So health, making sure that people are safe, letting people working from home, corporates focusing on how they can help in getting supplies that are helping to solve this crisis, and governance working tirelessly at pumping liquidity into the economy and making sure that the population stays safe. I mean, that's absolutely, completely normal and justified. But as I said, it is also time to focus on the longer term. We are at the beginning of the end, or sorry, the other way around. We're at the end of the beginning of this crisis, health crisis in Europe. Now it's time to look at the economy and having a sustainable economy, and that will require that we focus a lot more on ESG. Not only in our investment processes, but also in terms of engaging and voting behavior. And it's also something that we as an organization cannot do by ourselves. It's going to require concerted effort from end investors, from asset managers, and from governments to make this happen.
What's the message to clients at this time?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit selfish and talk about what our message to our clients has been. Well, very clearly, these were very scary times in the middle of March and towards the beginning of April, with a lot of volatility. And luckily, we were very conservatively positioned, and therefore, we could weather the storm. But it has been extremely important under these conditions to have multiple contacts with clients and making sure that you can assure them that we take full care of the portfolios. We explain them and what is going on, and we stay in touch with them. If you don't stay in touch with your clients in these times, you don't have a right to stay in touch with your clients in better times. So that is very important. Also, I think during those periods we continued to focus on sustainability. We had quite a bit of successes, particularly on the engagement side. We work with the Climate 100 Action Group, and one of the results on a first one is the NL case, where jointly we succeeded in putting a climate specialist on the board, so that over time this Italian energy company could switch into more clean energy and reduce their carbon footprint. The Shell case is also very much public knowledge. We're together with the Church of England and a number of others. We felt that Shell didn't go enough in becoming carbon neutral, and that it did not have their incentives and particularly compensation linked to these goals. And there also we got a great response from the company. So I think it is important to realize that we as one asset manager can make some difference, but even a bigger difference if we, together with the end investors, actually all work together towards getting a better world and to get wealth and well-being distributed equally.
If I can ask you to step back a bit, what does the asset management industry look like going forward?
Well, I think that the trends that we have been seeing before the crisis are just going to continue. We have seen that there has been a very big move to passive. We've also seen, that there is an enormous pressure on fees, and that will continue, and particularly when we expect that the future return environment is not going to be as rich as we have seen it over the last 10 years. That will mean that we will have to continue to make sure that we provide the proper services at a proper value for our clients. But I still think that there are very, very good prospects for active managers, and particularly with sustainability, which from my perspective requires an active decision. You have to make a choice whether you are going to invest in companies that not only create shareholder value, but create value for all of the stakeholders, not only shareholders. And I think that's very important. So I'm pretty optimistic. An industry that is going to see fees coming down even further. But if you provide value for money, and you focus on what I would call the right things, then I think we still have a very, very bright future.
Thank you so much for your time and your insights today.
You're very welcome.